Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today we need to talk about some huge updates on the Brady Tkachuk and Ottawa Senators situation, a contract situation that's gotten so much worse over the past couple of weeks, and a situation that doesn't seem like it'll be solved anytime soon. We got some big updates on the asking price from both Ottawa and Brady Tkachuk, as well as what we could see with this situation heading into this NHL season, and how this will all play out. When it comes to Brady Tkachuk, though, there's a lot to talk about. So what is the latest news and updates regarding him and the Ottawa Senators? And could we actually see a deal get done soon? Or are the Ottawa Senators going to go into the season without Brady Tkachuk? Watch till the end for all the answers and all the latest trade rumors, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new. 60% of the people that are watching are not subscribed. If you like hockey, this channel is the place to be. Now, we all know just how good Brady Tkachuk is, but it's that overall production and overall product you're getting outside of the talent and point production that makes Tkachuk such an interesting factor in these negotiations. It's not just the point production, it's not just the talent that he has every single day, it's that captain leadership he brings to the locker room, that influence and that overall body of work he brings to the younger players as well. An example, if you will. It's that sandpaper and hardworking play that the Sens have desperately wanted to push within their franchise, that is pretty much is translating to Brady Tkachuk's play, and he is the biggest example of that hardworking play. It's everything combined together to form a fantastic package with Brady Tkachuk, and that's a big reason why I think the Sens have not been able to sign him, is because Brady Tkachuk has a good argument to be the most valuable Sens player, and especially forward-wise, they've had in a very long time, really since Mark Stone. Andy Strickland had a pretty interesting thread here, basically detailing the lack of communication between the Sens and Brady Tkachuk and how this situation has been allowed to continue like it is. And he says this: lack of communication from Ottawa to the Brady Tkachuk camp is a big reason of what's preventing Tkachuk from being signed. The Senators owner, Eugene Melnyk, has a history of this with star players. The team is set only on signing Tkachuk to a 7 or 8 year term versus doing a bridge deal. Now, that gives us a lot of details, and that also again says that maybe Eugene Melnyk is a part of this, not wanting to go with a bridge deal, being scared to go for a bridge deal in case Brady Tkachuk leaves after that, and not setting himself up, or not setting Tkachuk at least up to be the captain that way. Now, when it comes to Ottawa, obviously we know the difference is Ottawa wants a 7 and 8 year deal. Tkachuk wants a shorter bridge 3 year deal, at least to the rate that the Ottawa Senators are paying him. Maybe if the Sens pay more than what they're offering at that 8 year term, maybe Tkachuk would sign it, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen either, and it seems like we have this huge stalemate that might not get resolved for a very long time. Now, when it comes to the Sens, they're asking for around $8 million, actually $8 million on the dot for a 7 or 8 year deal. That's been offered to Brady Tkachuk, and Brady Tkachuk has said no, once again continuing to insist a bridge deal is what he wants and what he will eventually sign with. Now, it hasn't really been confirmed yet what Brady Tkachuk wants on a bridge deal, but we do know what he wants on an 8 or long-term deal with the Sens, and that is upwards and north of $8.4 million, according to Bruce Gerich. That is what is likely the offer, or at least the asking price from the Sens, is at least more than 8.4, which, if we're saying that, let's just say for a second it's like 8.8 or 8.9, around that range. I can see why the Sens would be a little bit hesitant to actually get that deal done, especially if there is some signing bonus included with that, which has been a deal breaker for the Sens in the past. It seems like a situation the Sens aren't going to be able to totally afford, but at the same time, this is a player that probably should be your captain if it's not Thomas Chabot, and this is a player that leads and influence, is the epitome of the play style of your team, and even if you have to pay maybe 500 grand more or 700 grand more, I think you make that deal. It's kind of the same situation where I think maybe the same situation as the Leafs in a little bit of ways with maybe Austin Matthews, where this was a player that was transcending. He was a huge part of your team. He was basically the epitome of your play style and was the face of the franchise on the forward group, and could maybe be even considered at some point the captain of the future. Brady Tkachuk's kind of in that same situation, although a much different player, but at the same time, in terms of value, they're not too far apart, and for the Sens at least, they don't have a Mitch Marner to also pay, or a John Tavares to also pay. To me, if I was the Sens and it cost $500K more, maybe like $8.5 or $8.6 million cap hit, I get that deal done, especially if you can have Tkachuk Tkachuk for the next 8 seasons. That's, I think, a pretty big success. Now, Andy Strickland continues to emphasize the lack of communication. In his second tweet, he said this: "The Senators at times have gone several days without reaching out to the Tkachuk camp. There's a solution and a deal to be made. Again, organization has a history of this with star players." And again, the first one that came up to my mind was Mark Stone, and I'm going to bring him up again because this was a player that he was going into his contract year, I believe, and then was traded to the Vegas Golden Knights, and that deal ended up getting done where he signed a big extension there. But the Sens were scared to sign him to a shorter-term deal, and eventually were just willing to trade him away and to have him as a big trade deadline piece. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen the same way, obviously, with Tkachuk being an RFA and Mark Stone being a lot older in that case, but it's kind of the same situation where the Sens and Eugene Melnyk specifically don't want to give up that extra little bit to get a deal done. And I do believe that if Pierre Dorion was given the go-ahead, I think it would have happened already. I think this deal could have been done, but I'm not sure if Eugene Melnyk wants to bend in this situation, and I think he wants to maybe make a point, perhaps. It's obviously not working to this point, and the lack of communication has been a big reason why we haven't seen a signing. And I think with this communication, I mean, I'm not reaching out for several days with the Tkachuk camp at this point, right before the start of the season, that is a death sentence, and I think we could see this situation go well into the NHL season. Now, there is another tweet here that just came in as I was recording this from Bruce Gerich. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing his name wrong, so I'm just going to call him Bruce for right now. But Bruce of the Ottawa Sun had a very interesting tweet and a quote from DJ Smith, head coach of the Ottawa Senators, about the Tkachuk situation and how it could play out heading into this next season. And I'll just read Bruce's tweet, but DJ Smith said this: "DJ Smith says he now must prepare to start the season without Brady Tkachuk," and then Bruce puts the hashtag Sens right at the end of the tweet. And man, I don't know about you guys, but this feels like a situation to me that has already been a little bit ugly, but is about to be uglier than well, I was about to make your mom joke, but I'll lay it off for now. You get what I mean. This could be pretty bad, and especially DJ Smith, he's pretty much gotten the go-ahead now in this case. Obviously, talking with Pierre Dorion about what this situation could be, when we could see a resolve. DJ Smith obviously wants to know. It seems like he's got an indication, or maybe the green light, that it doesn't seem like a Tkachuk signing is going to happen before the season starts. And DJ Smith, again, head coach of the Sens, is fully preparing right now to start the season without Brady Tkachuk. And especially in this case, saying it so bluntly, it seems like it might be a situation as well that he feels might go pretty long into the season. I mean, you might maybe prepare to not have him for the start of the season, but at the same time, all these games are important, especially for the Sens in the first half. It was not good whatsoever in the first half last year until they caught fire in the second half, and you need a guy like Brady Tkachuk to set the tone and to be a great influence from day one, especially with some of those rookies like Shane Pinto hopefully coming into the fold full time. Brady Tkachuk is extremely important though, and as an influence the Sens just cannot afford to not have. And if the Sens want to be competitive this year, Brady Tkachuk needs to be there. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. If he's not there, I could see them being lower in the standings than the Detroit Red Wings. I think it could be up to that level, and I feel like the Sens also know that. But at the same time, it just feels like a situation where neither side has really come to any sort of middle ground, and it seems like a situation just like William Nylander that we could see going into December. I mean, I think if the Sens do it, they're basically kissing their playoff aspirations goodbye. It wasn't amazing to begin with, but at the same time, you're basically giving up for the season, which I don't think for Eugene Melnyk, a guy who wants to sell as many tickets as possible, is exactly the route he wants to go on either. Now, the thing is, I think this is also on both parties. Even though I'm all for players and guys like Brady Tkachuk getting as much money as possible, I'm mostly on the player side in these situations. Still, though, to give more than 8.5, we're going in like the almost $9 million territory. I'm definitely not liking that for Brady Tkachuk. I know I've painted him in a great light so far, but he still does have his holes, even 4 years now into his NHL career, and that's to be expected. He is still 22 years old, and he is still developing, but there hasn't been maybe as much progress with Tkachuk as we maybe would have hoped going back to his great rookie season with the Sens. There hasn't been amazing progress there in terms of offensive and point production totals, and let's be honest here, I can see why the Sens would be a little bit hesitant here to sign a guy up to that level who hasn't cracked more than 45 45 points. I mean, that is a bona fide fact, and he wasn't even on pace to do more than 50 this last season. So it's one of those situations where I can get both sides here. I know that Brady Tkachuk knows just how valuable he is to the Ottawa Senators, and again, it's not just all about points, it's about what he brings in terms of leadership, captaincy, and the influence in the players, and Brady Tkachuk is obviously using that influence to his advantage. But at the same time, I get why the Sens haven't done it up to this point and haven't paid him that much. In terms of his actual value, I don't think he's close to a $9 million player right now. Now, I know Ottawa obviously wants that long-term deal and wants to get Brady Tkachuk signed and ready to go and not have to worry about it any longer, but in my opinion, I think Ottawa should also be listening towards a shorter-term deal. Let's say it is a 3-year deal, a 3-year bridge deal, and at age 22, it would take him until he's 25. I would assume he would still be an RFA after that deal goes by, and I think he would. If you're Ottawa and you still have him as an RFA after 3 seasons, why not just go after him and get this deal done before the season starts on a 3-year bridge? It would obviously cost less than that long-term deal, probably around what Matthew Tkachuk got, around that $7 million, maybe $7.5 million range. That would be what I would expect on a bridge 3-year contract. And if you're the Sens, I think that might be what you should go for at this point. This is a player that is so influential, so important to the team, that I don't think you can afford to not have him for the start of the season, especially in a situation where he could potentially break out with the players he has around him improving as well. To me, for Ottawa, it would also make a lot of sense for the long term too. You would still have him as an RFA after 3 years, and even though you might have to pay him more after that 3 years is done, there's no guarantee that Brady Tkachuk improves vastly over what he is right now. Again, over the past 3 seasons, he's been around that 40-45 point pace, and even though he might improve on that, even if he was around a 50-55 point pace over the next 3 seasons, that's still a player that would still be worth around 8.5, maybe 9. And at that point, Brady Tkachuk might be a lot more willing to sign a long-term deal, especially if the Sens can prove that this is a place to win, this is a place to be. And you're not going to be able to win and prove that unless you have Brady Tkachuk. I don't think we'll see an offer sheet, but at this rate, I think the situation could go well into October, November, and maybe even December. And if it gets that long, I think we'll see, honestly, these both sides finally get a deal done, but it's going to leave a bad taste in the mouth on both parties, and it'll be kind of like William Nylander, where Tkachuk's entrance onto the team isn't quite as great as we thought it would be. But I'm just saying, UNG Melnick, if you need to pay the man, just pay the man. He is Brady freaking Tkachuk, and he's one of the best draft picks you guys have had in a very long time, so make sure it gets done. But that'll be it for today, guys, and that'll be it for all the news and updates today as well. If you did enjoy this roundup, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. One of the best ways to support the channel is that way. Of course, comment down below, what do you guys think about this Tkachuk situation? What would you pay Tkachuk if you're the Ottawa Senators? Who do you think is in the right here? Who do you think is in the wrong? Who should bend, who should break? Let me know your thoughts. Of course, make sure you share this video with your friends, get the updates and all the news out there to any hockey fans you know online or in real life, and make sure you hit this card hit that subscribe button, hit this card for all of my trade rumor content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.